This is an R Media podcast. This episode is supported by Vixen, Australian-made skincare powered by plant cell technology and designed to bring real simplicity back to skincare. This episode is made in partnership with Wounded Heroes Australia, the only 24-hour, 7-day-a-week crisis service that helps veterans and their families in their hardest moments. Hey Twisty, it's your sister here. I've been chatting about you today and your experience with step parenting because I've just had a chat with a really awesome couple called Matty and Esther Acton. They met when Matty was just 18 and Esther already had a 3-year-old. Their story of step parenting is wild. Even wilder, they're grandparents and they're not even 40 yet. Anyway, I'll tell you all about it when I speak to you. All right, love you. Bye. I've been thinking lately about the experience of falling in love because if you ask me, the falling in love part is the easy bit. It's the stuff that comes along with that falling, the extra parts that make up that person's life that make it trickier to navigate. You need to fall in love with a total package and take on that deal with a completely open heart. Back when he met his wife Esther, Matty Acton didn't just fall for the girl. He fell for her and her 3-year-old son Ethan because they were a package deal. And Matty was just 18. He was at an age when most of his friends only had to worry about looking after themselves. But in the years that have followed, marriage, 2 more kids, and now, as the youngest is still in primary school, a grandchild have all arrived. Today, Matty and Esther are joining us to talk about a package deal love story that has not followed a traditional timeline and how they've navigated through this together.
And I think that's what's cool about being a grandparent at our age is, it just proves life does not follow any sort of script or plan. You just have to roll with what happens.
And it can be amazing if you roll with it. I think if you resist it, it just makes it harder for yourself. Whereas if you just embrace it and go, cool, this is just part of my story and our story. And
plus we get to be the young hotties at Grandparents' Day when Olyria starts school.
I'm Tiffany Dunk, and this is the Australian Women's Weekly Love Stories. Matty and Esther, thank you so much for joining us here on Love Stories.
Thank you for having us.
Thanks for having us.
You're very welcome. I'd love to kick off by asking you, if there was a love song that summed up your relationship, which one would it be?
Oh, this is interesting.
I've got one, but I don't know if it's technically a love song. I think it is, but Cardigan by Taylor Swift. It's got to be Taylor Swift.
Right.
Because it's about everybody thinks when you're young you know nothing. But yeah, we just kept coming back together even when we were young. We broke up lots of times when we first got together because he was 18 and I was 22. So there was a lot of tumultuous years.
Not as up on Taylor Swift lyrics as you are.
Do you even know that song?
No, yeah, I do know it. I do know it. What would I say? I don't know. I guess you're right in your lyrics there. I would pick a song from when we were first together.
So Jack Johnson.
Jack Johnson was an album that we listened to a lot around that time. And whenever I hear something from him, it reminds me of you.
Better Together. That was probably...
Luke Combs has a song called Beautiful Crazy, and I say that reminds me a lot of Esther. The opening lyric to that song is, she starts her day with a coffee and ends with a wine. Takes forever getting ready and is never on time.
Yeah.
So that's another love song for us too. Yeah.
Well, take us a step backwards then. You mentioned, Matty, you were 18, Esther, you were 22. Tell us about how you first met and what you were each doing at that time in your life.
We met through Esther's best friend at the time. So I was in my first full-time radio job. I'd moved to Toowoomba from Gladstone. And I was flatting with a girl I worked with. She was in the sales area and she was telling me about this friend she had, Esther. So I knew all about Esther and I knew all these stories. And then there was no plan to ever like meet. It was just this girl that I knew she was friends with.
And I, in turn, had heard about Matt through her, just her telling me, you know, oh, there's this young guy at work and he's funny and fun and I like him and, you know, he's fun to hang out with. But there was never it wasn't ever like, oh, you guys should meet each other or anything. She didn't think there'd ever be a romantic spark between us. Her and I were going to a party one day, and when we turned up and looked into the backyard, we saw that we were the first people there that weren't family.
Oh, that's always so awkward.
Awkward, and we're so early and we have so many drinks, like maybe we should come back a bit later. So she said, I'll just ring Matt and see what he's doing. And yeah, we ended up at a sort of house party that he was at until we could go to this other party. And yeah, we kind of hit it off straight away. There was definitely sparks both ways straight away.
I remember walking out into the back area, like my mate's back patio, and Esther was out there chatting and they were all talking or whatever. And the conversation came up and I didn't even, this sounds like a real slick line from me, but it absolutely wasn't even an attempt at that. They were talking about Esther had just broken up with someone a few weeks earlier, and the discussion was, how long do you wait to move on?
Yeah.
And I think I said, why don't you just move on tonight?
No, you said, you just looked at me. We hadn't even spoken to each other and you looked me straight in the eye and said, it's never too soon. Just like,
yeah,
do it now.
Yeah. And then, and then you went off to the party. Back to the party.
Yeah.
And I went out with my friends and then we all met up later that night.
Had a pash on the dance floor of the Tattersalls Hotel.
Yeah.
Right in front of the DJ booth, you know, as you do.
Classy.
And it was one of those like, you know, fancy places where it was a pub by day and nightclub by night.
Yeah.
You know those ones?
Only Toowoomba has that.
Yeah.
So there's people eating in the bistro like 2 hours before there's like thumping dance music. You know, like that's the type of venue. Yeah. So it was all class.
Kids these days, they just don't understand, you know, the versatility of some of those places in regional towns.
Yeah, but then he asked Carmi if he could have my number because he didn't get my number.
Well, yeah, this is an absolute rort, this part of the story.
And she said, no, I have to ask her first. I don't know if she wants you to have it.
That's a good friend right there, I have to say.
I was impressed by that.
Yeah.
So then she was like, do you want me to give it to him? You don't have to. But no, I said yes. And we didn't really ever think it was going to be anything serious because of the age gap. We were both like, he was pursuing radio. I was about to move to Brisbane. That had been my plan. I had a 3-year-old son and I'd been looking for jobs in Brisbane and that was my plan to move. So we never thought it was going to really go anywhere, but we just really enjoyed each other's company and had a good laugh. And yeah, here we are 21 years later.
I guess you at the time as well, though, you were probably thinking, I've got a kid.
Yeah. He's 18. There's no way that this is going to be something long term.
Yeah.
I just thought, you know, he's going to be doing whatever he's doing.
Turns out I'm more mature than you now.
He was more mature then, actually.
Well, I think as well, like, you know, it's 4 years, but when you're that age, 4 years feels like an eternity, right? And then throw a child into the mix as well. So had you been on your own raising your son for a fair while then, Esther?
Yes. So I was a single mum right from the beginning. So I didn't ever have another partner in the picture. A very supportive family who sort of definitely stepped up and, you know, were the other parents in a way they were really supporting me while I was parenting and working and doing all of that. Yeah, but I hadn't had a partner, just, boyfriends. So this was no different in my mind. I was just going to sort of date someone for a little while and then
kick me to the curb.
Yeah.
That wasn't the plan, but I just, didn't think it was going to be anything serious, obviously. But yeah, he was more mature than anyone I'd ever dated before, as far as having his head very straight about, everything. He was, very mature and very family oriented. He definitely had a strong sense of family, and I think his father had been sick for quite a while, and I think that had sort of made him grow up very quickly through those teenage years, and so he saw the value in spending time with kids and all that sort of stuff. So he really he fell in love with Ethan. I can't say that it was all me. But yeah, he definitely had a bond with my son straight away that other boyfriends that I'd had never sort of ever had.
Yeah. I guess then, Matty, for you, like sort of, it's one thing to sort of see a really, attractive and funny and smart woman, but like when you found out she had a child, was that ever for you a bit of a, I don't know if I should do this moment, or what was your thought pattern at that point?
I guess it was never something I ever really overthought about. The people who thought about it the most were other people outside of the relationship. It was different to tell someone that I was dating Esther, and then you say, she's got a son, and then all of a sudden, I don't know whether it was because people think they can tell you their opinion or because I was younger, straight away they would go straight to that. Do you want to do that? Is that the right thing? Blah, blah, blah. And that was probably the hardest part, when you're young, stupidly other people's opinions mattered to you more than they really should. So that was probably one of the difficult things.
Yeah.
But, Esther, when we first met, it's not like we met and I was like, oh, she's a mum. Esther was very much her own person and a fantastic mum. There was a long time before I met Ethan when we were first sort of dating or whatever. It wasn't like, she brought Ethan to the second date.
No. Made you wait a little while, didn't
yeah. And fair enough, I can understand that. You don't rush into that.
It was until we'd sort of said officially, okay, maybe this isn't just a fling, maybe we're enjoying each other's company more than, and we want to see where this goes. Then I was like, well, actually, yeah, then you should definitely meet Ethan because that's a big part of the picture. And then, yeah, it went from there really, didn't it?
Yeah, but we had some times early in our relationship where things were rocky and we, sort of broke up a few times and got back together. To be honest, one of the hardest parts of that was it felt like I was breaking up with two people every time that we broke up because I'd obviously had a great relationship with Ethan, and that was probably the most difficult.
What would lead to those initial breakups? I mean, I guess you're so young at that point, both of you.
A lot of it was outside influence, like I think we touched on before, was generally people saying, I don't know really why you guys are bothering. Like, Matt's going to go off and chase his career and you've got other priorities and why do you think this is going to work? And, he had a lot of pressure from friends in his life and there was family pressures and just a lot of people sort of saying, I don't know why you're thinking it's going to work. So that then, of course, made us question everything all the time as well. And I was living in Brisbane at the time and he was living on the Sunshine Coast. So the breakups would be anywhere from 2 weeks to a day. The longest one was 6 weeks. And that I was just like, no, this is it. I can't keep stuffing around like this. It's done, just lose my number sort of thing. We can't be friends, obviously, because every time we try and be friends, we get back together. So let's just let it all go. And yeah, he just had to then beg me to come back and do the big, proclamation of love and pick up his life and move it to Brisbane, even though he was working on the Gold Coast, to try and, show me this is, I don't want to break up again. And yeah, we haven't since then.
I think it was the last and hardest one. It was just after my dad passed away. So I would have been 21. My dad passed away from lung cancer. And it was just, we were both very young, like and 21. And even you were only still 25, super young. It was a lot of pressure for two young people. There's a child involved, trying to build our lives and our careers. My dad passed away and it was just it was a lot at once. And I definitely wasn't my best self around that time. But once we kind of got through that, everything's been really great.
Coming up after the break, the important piece of advice that Matt's dad told him which would cement his relationship with Esther and Ethan. Keep your tissues nearby because you might need them. I'll see you in a bit. Hey guys, I want to throw a few numbers at you. The first one is 1 in 20. That's how many households in Australia have at least one person who has served our country. And chances are that could be your sister, your dad, your housemate, your neighbour, your partner, your friend. It could be you. And for many of those who have served, that service has had a long-lasting impact. Because the next number I have for you is 3. In 2023, 3 veterans died every 2 weeks by suicide. And that is a leading cause of death for ex-serving ADF members. I've got one more number, 1,555. That's how many Australian veterans were homeless on any given night during the 2021 census. So why am I telling you all of this? It's because you can do something to help put an end to these devastating numbers. Wounded Heroes Australia is a 24-hour, 7-day-a-week crisis service that's there any time of the day and night to answer the calls of veterans and their families in crisis and offer them an immediate lifeline. But they need your help to keep this going. Whether it's as little as $1 or even more, every donation from you can help to save the life of a veteran who dedicated theirs to protecting ours. Head to woundedheroes.org.au to make a real difference. Thank you. You said there was this six-week gap and Esther had basically said, lose my number, like forget about it. What was it that made you go, no, I'm going to fight really hard for this? What was the, I don't know, aha moment, if you will?
It was the first proper time that Esther fully cut ties with me. Like every other time we would have breaks or whatever, we would still chat and hang out and stuff like that. And there was a long period where we didn't speak. And I think I did a bit of therapy, obviously, after losing my dad. And I just couldn't see a life where I didn't have Esther and I was going to be happy. There was a point where I was like, oh, she's never going to speak to me again. And I just couldn't handle that at all. Whether it was, even if she didn't want to be romantically with me, I just don't know that I could have seen myself where she wasn't around or Ethan wasn't going to be around. And I didn't want to ever lose that. So I was like, I know.
Makes me feel mean now. I'm like, that was like, it was self-preservation. I was like,
no, it was. I don't think it was mean at all. Like at the end of the day, it was. I wasn't in a great place, and I totally get. If you hadn't have done that, I don't think we sort of would have worked out.
No.
And so I said to Esther, and to be fair, Esther had done a lot for me. She'd done a lot of moving, and I think it just went, like Esther had put a lot of effort into the relationship, and I had a moment where I was like, you know what, maybe I haven't given as much as she's given me. So I was like, it's my turn to sort of prove it to her now, and it paid off, luckily.
And, and thinking about that as well, you mentioned sort of, thinking about life without Ethan too, because it is a package deal, right? Like, when you are a single parent, that child is a part of the package. I wanted to take a step back again and sort of ask about that first meeting with Ethan and how it went and what you felt, each of you, from each of your perspectives.
I loved him from the minute I saw him. He's such a great kid and he's such a sweet boy now. Yeah. He's a man with his own children. But him and we got close really quickly. And I used to, I love hanging out with him, having him around. I always felt like I had a really close bond with him early on. And I've never not felt like his dad. Like people always ask me about that. Like I don't know. That was never, Esther wasn't like, we're dating and now you're his dad.
No.
But I felt like I was as soon as as soon as he came into my life, I felt this thing that I had to, I just had a connection with him and I really felt close to him straight away, if that makes sense.
Yeah. So I was a little bit, the day that you met him, we'd been down the Gold Coast for Matt's Christmas party and we were heading back and my family had been looking after him on the Gold Coast. I had family living there. And so my mum and dad were there and he was with them and Matt hadn't met the rest of my family. So I dropped Matt at a Woolworths around the corner because I didn't want him to meet not just Ethan but like all of my family in one hit.
Wow.
I was just like, that is
the pressure.
That is a lot. That's a lot.
You know I existed at that point?
I think so. I'm pretty sure I told them. But no, so I said to him, okay, well, I'm going to go pick up Ethan and then I'll come back and get you and, you know, you guys can meet and we'll drive back to Brisbane. Ethan got in the car and we went back and I said, I'm just going to go pick up someone and introduce you to a friend of mine. And so then...
So I'm walking around a Woolworths car park, deathly hungover.
He gets in the car and Ethan was immediately like, hey, Mum, who's your buddy? Like, that's exactly what he said. He was such a cute little thing. And, yeah, they just hit it off. Probably close in age.
Yeah, very close. Yeah.
No, the immaturity maybe. No, they hit it off straight away and it was actually really nice to see, you know, Matt didn't have any trouble sort of, it sounds funny, but like telling Ethan off or telling him, don't do that, mate, stop that, or, you know, be nice to your mum or, you know, all those things that, you know, people never want to step in and say. Matt was immediately protective of me and he was immediately trying to guide him and it was really nice that I was like, oh, someone's on my side here. This is like, I'm not used to this. Yeah, and Ethan responded really well to it. He was just like, okay, you know, like listening. So, yeah, it was nice.
That's lovely. So you said you'd had your breakups and you had the final one and that was about 3 years in. From that point onwards, how quickly did you decide that an engagement or marriage was in the future?
So
we took a bit longer.
We did. So we would take we were together 7 years before we got married or engaged.
Engaged, I think.
So after that, we moved to Sydney. I got a job in Sydney to work at Today FM, and Esther didn't even hesitate to move. And it was, you know, that's a big thing. She had no friends or family in Sydney. Neither did I, but it was all like for me. So Esther gave up her job in Brisbane to go to Sydney with the hopes of getting work, you know, brought Ethan along. But I think after a year there, we got engaged.
Must have been something like that.
Yeah, so I think we moved there in the May. And then we got engaged at Christmas that
I can't remember.
year.
How
yeah,
bad
it was.
Is that?
No, it would have been.
What was the engagement like? Had you planned it?
I was so nervous about it. And obviously we talked about marriage. We talked about all of that. But I don't know.
It was always something we were going to do.
Yeah.
We just hadn't gotten around to it. Like we'd been moving for work and sort of busy prioritizing stuff. We hadn't really put any focus on it, had we? But it was something we always knew we were going to do eventually. Plus he was only, how old were you then? I was 28, so you were 24.
24, yeah.
When we got married. So he still felt so young to me to even, you know, be getting married. But.
So I remember I bought the ring and then as I walked out of the shop, I rang Esther's dad to you know, ask his permission. I was so nervous. I was like, I have to do it now. I have to do it now. So I'm standing at the front of a 7-Eleven. And then I had planned to propose on New Year's Eve
at Sydney Harbour.
At Sydney Harbour with all the fireworks and everything. I was like, that will be perfect. But I was on air that night for the broadcast and I thought...
And he knew I'd have unlimited champagne because I was there with some of the family on a table. So he was a bit nervous about what I would be like at midnight, whether or not I would be...
Well, and even like I was like, how am I going to get from the broadcast, run over, do the whole thing? I couldn't get it to work. So I did it on Christmas Day. And my plan was I took Esther. I was going to get her to come and help me get ice for the esky. And then I took her to a parking glebe and asked her to marry me.
Walked me out onto a bridge blindfolded and then forgot to take my blindfold off. So he was proposing to me and I was like, I don't even know where I am. Can you take my blindfold off? It was a tea towel. Yeah.
But I just remember being so nervous. I was like, you'd think after 7 years, she's moved her whole life to Sydney for me, you'd think I would be confident. But
I couldn't figure out why he was nervous. I was like, as if I'm going to say no at this point. Like we're so deep in. Like,
yeah, you know, it's you know what it's like.
How did Ethan react when he heard the news?
He was excited.
Yeah, he was really pumped. Yeah, he was over the moon. He was even more excited when he found out he was going to get a baby brother.
Yeah,
that day was the day he lost his mind.
Yeah.
So at what point, Matty, did he start calling you dad? And was there a conversation around that? Or
yeah, we did have that conversation. I think it was before we moved to Sydney.
Yeah, it was after the big breakup.
Yeah,
Matt moved to Brisbane and we were living there. And I think you and him you just said, I would be happy if he started calling me dad. Do you mind if I have a chat to him and see if that's something he wants to do? And then you guys just had the talk and he was like, yep, I do. And then pretty much that day he started calling you dad and that was the end of it.
I just sort of said to him, I said to him, I can't even really remember the words, but I remember the sentiment was that, you know, to me, he was my son and, you know, that I'll never sort of leave him and I'll always be around and I'll always be there for him. No matter really whatever happened. I said, you know, even if me and mum didn't work out at some point, I said, you know, I'll always be there for you. And I said, you know, no pressure. I said, but if for you, because I think he'd asked some questions at some points about like, are you my dad? Are you not? You know, as he got older, it probably, and people would probably have been asking him. He was at school. And I said, if you want to call me dad, you can. If you want to keep calling me Matt, you can do that as well. I said, it's totally up to you. You just do whatever you want. But I didn't want to be like, hey, call me dad now. I want it to be what felt natural to him.
Yeah. And then after we did get married and I changed my name, Ethan changed his name as well. He had my maiden name prior to that, but he's Ethan Acton and has been since I've been Esther Acton. So,
how did it feel for you, Esther, hearing your son call Matt dad for the first time?
I do remember it was a moment because I still remember where we were and like when it started to feel normal, like which was really quick. And I remember hearing him say it to Matt and it was just in conversation. And I was like, this is the new normal now. Yeah, it was lovely. It was a nice, I think it felt like a sense of completion or like another layer to, okay, this is what we're building here. We're actually, you know, we're moving forward. We're building something. It's not just confirmation that we were doing the right thing, I guess.
Yeah. Did you get any advice from anyone about sort of how to blend that together or how to approach? Because I think step parenting or parenting, any kind of parenting is really hard for people, especially when the child is a bit older. Matty, was there anyone who gave you a few words of wisdom or who you looked towards?
No one gave me too much. There was one conversation I had with my dad before he passed away. And I can remember exactly where I was standing. It was probably 6 months before he died. And we're standing on my auntie's driveway. He was down in Brisbane for treatment and we're having a beer together. And I can remember him being really encouraging about Esther and Ethan. And I can remember him saying to me, don't be afraid to love them. And that was one thing that's always stuck with me from him, because he wasn't a real emotional person, my dad. You know, he never really talked much about his feelings, whatever, but I could see like he had a great relationship with Ethan.
Mm.
You know, he absolutely loved Ethan, and that was really special that he got to have that before he passed away, you know, and got to have a grandchild essentially.
Yeah.
So I think that was that moment when I said to you about Esther where I was like, I realized that I was going to lose them, and that came back to me, that conversation with my dad where he was like, not to be afraid. And that's probably the biggest thing that stuck with me. And one of the best pieces of advice was just to go all in.
Oh, well, your dad sounds like a beautiful man. I'm so sorry for your loss.
Mhm.
It sounds like he very much lives on though through you, and I'm sure
Yeah.
you tell the kids all about him as well, and how beautiful that Ethan was able to meet him and spend time with him too.
Yeah, it was good.
Yeah.
They really had a special, cute little bond.
You obviously, spoiler alert, have had children together as well. When did you start talking about having more kids, and how did that come about?
I think it was mainly my idea.
I had to be talked into it.
Right. Well, I can imagine you've done it once and it's a long time ago. So,
And he was such a good kid. Like he'd had a really happy personality and was just, you know, happy-go-lucky, and I'd gotten really lucky with him, and I hadn't had the best birth with him. It had been very scary and long, traumatic. So I wasn't that keen on jumping back in. I was like, we've got this really good, easy, you know, kid, which is now I know that I've got two more, quite rare. So, I was just like, I think we can just tick that box. But
well, he was 12 when Xander was born. I will admit I love babies.
He's such a baby
I would
person.
have 15 children.
Yeah.
I could afford it. And two, if the female body could survive
I was
it.
going to say you might have to have a couple of other wives.
No, I love kids, but I just remember I remember the day I came home. I'd been thinking about it for a while, and I came home from work. I was doing breakfast radio on the Gold Coast, and I said to Esther, we need to talk. And she's like, oh, what's wrong?
Mm-hmm.
And I said, sit down. And I said to her, I would love for us to have a baby. And I remember her response was, oh, I knew this was going to happen.
Why?
But no, look, we had talked about, obviously when you talk about getting married and stuff, you talk about kids and that kind of thing.
I never said flat out no. I just thought maybe he'd get over it.
Just conveniently forget.
Yeah, you might be like, no, actually.
But I think it's partly Esther's fault too, because Esther is such a beautiful mum. Like, she is one of the most caring humans in the world, and that was another reason I fell in love with her so much, was seeing the way she was with Ethan. I'd never seen someone so selfless before in the way that they are for someone, and she was then and is still a fantastic mum. And I was like, well, I can't not bring children into the world with such a beautiful human. And so I said to her, I would love for us to have a baby, and so we did.
Yeah.
And
look, absolutely no regret. I was all in. He was the one who had to ask. And look,
I get it. You know, Esther, you've been a mum since you were 18.
Yeah.
You know, so I totally understand that. And also I don't have to birth the children, so I can understand how it's a bigger deal for her than me. But yeah, look, there was no hesitation. Like I said before, Ethan was so excited.
He was beside himself
to have a brother. We
took him to our first, I think it was a 9-week scan or something.
It was the ultrasound when we found out the sex of the baby.
Yeah, and he just was like, this is the greatest day of my life.
Oh, that's so cute, because a lot of kids do not have that reaction.
He's always been obsessed with babies as well. I think him and Matt are very similar in that way. Like, as a little kid, he would come up to me in a restaurant and say, oh, Mum, come here, I've got to show you something. And I'd follow him and he'd be like, look at that baby, it's so cute. And I'd be like, that's so funny for like a 5 or 6 year old boy to be like, look at this cute baby. But he was just, he's always been like that, and obviously, you know, he's a young dad now, so that makes a lot of sense. And then Xander, he was obsessed with Xander, and it was like having a third parent around, another set of hands, you know.
Love that
he was
for
just
you.
yeah, we got a couple of years of babysitting out of him before he discovered girls and left the house. But prior to that, he'd been really good with looking after him too, which was good.
Was there ever any, concern or talk around sort of bringing in kids that were biologically the both of yours, and how that might, like, were you worried about you might parent differently, or there could be feelings, or I don't know, like, was there any concern around that?
I think you think about it. I definitely did think about it. You know, I wonder if Matt will be, you know, as hard on Xander as he was on Ethan, you know, when they hit those sort of teenage years and you've really got to sort of rein them in. But I think Xander gets it worse.
I think so, yeah.
Because we were younger, and so we were sort of a little bit, and it's your first time, so you don't really know, you know, you're making rules, but then, you know, they're finding new ways to break them. So you're like, I don't know, I think I thought about it, definitely, but really you don't, it wasn't an issue. It hasn't been an issue.
Yeah.
Kids all have different personalities, and I think that's the whole thing. Like, even, you know, if it's biological or non-biological, depending on your personality, sometimes, you know, you can have clashes within the family of people being like, oh, they drive me nuts, you know. But no, it didn't happen. Xander's probably similar to what Matt was like as a kid. So very full of energy and sort of bounces off the walls and, you know, like constantly making noise. And so I think they sort of rub each other up the wrong way.
Yeah, a little bit.
Yeah. Whereas Ethan was a lot more relaxed and chill. Like, he's a very chill sort of person.
Yeah. And then you've got your little girl as well.
And then Edie, and, you know, she's different to everybody else, isn't she?
Yeah.
And she's probably like me, and so we
bossy.
we butt up against each other. You know, she absolutely loves me and I absolutely adore her. But at the same time, we are probably too similar, and we can be a bit stubborn with each other. And yeah, she tries to be the boss of me and I try to be the boss of her, and nobody wins. Have you
got kids?
I do not, no, but I have a fur baby, not a dog, a cat, and I've got nieces and nephews. So, but no, it's interesting. My brother, when he met his wife, she had 2 children from a previous marriage, and they lived with my brother and his wife full time. So sort of watching him, they were a little bit older than Ethan, but yeah, sort of watching him navigate and forming this really beautiful relationship. I mean, their dad is still present in their life, so it's a little bit different. But I think, you know, the joy that they each bring into each other's lives and the relationship that they've built is super special. They've got a child of their own as well now too, and I guess that's probably why I asked about sort of bringing another child into the family. You know, like for them it seemed quite effortless, and I don't know, the boys were a bit older. And
standing like with your brother, I think what it does do, and I never felt like Ethan was never not, like, I never felt like he wasn't not my son. And then when we had our kids together, it didn't make me go, these are my kids, that he's not my kid. Because I think it made him feel more like my son because he's the sibling of Xander and the brother of Eden.
Yeah.
To be fair, it made it feel even more special and more real, if that's the word that I'm looking for. Once we had more kids.
Yeah, that's beautiful.
Yeah, no matter what happened, I was like, well, that they're always going to be his brother and sister. So does that make, like, you know, I don't know. It felt more intertwined for me once we had the kids.
And they both adore Ethan.
Oh,
and
he
has a really good relationship with both of them individually. And then they fight like cat and dog because they're probably closer in age, you know. But it'll change when they get older.
Yeah.
But they both,
they'll all turn on us. That's how it works. They grow up, then we become the annoying ones, and then they can go and bitch about us.
So what does an underage grandparent actually look like? Matty and Esther are going to share how this new life stage is bringing plenty of joy along with a few surprises. I'll see you after the break. Confession time, guys. I'm really lazy when it comes to my skincare routine. To be honest, I'm lucky if I remember to wash my face at night and don't even go into applying all those different steps of toners, serums, creams, all the different things. It's why Vixen's all-in-one moisturiser was such a game changer for me when I came across it last year. Just one step, done. But I found a new secret weapon and it's become just as easy to add into my lazy girl routine. Vixen's Shake to Activate Super Vita Serum is lightweight, it smells divine, and it's really good for hydration. And I've got super dry skin, so that's been really great for me. All you need to do is just shake the bottle, apply a couple of drops to your face, and then whack on that moisturiser. And literally, what could be simpler than that? I'll let you in on another secret. If you go to vixen.com.au to purchase now, just add in the code LOVESTORIES, that's Love Stories, all one word, at checkout, and you'll get an extra 30% off. You're welcome. Now, you've kind of spoiler alerted yourself, but Ethan obviously has left home. He has married and had a child of his own. Grandparents, just as you're heading towards your 40s or just turned 40, how did that land for you both?
I was shocked. I think I was shocked. I thought that Ethan would want to travel and like do things differently to how we did them, just because, you know, you think he's lived through the whole experience of having young parents and, you know, navigating all of that. And obviously we didn't have a lot of money when he was little. You know, there's all the stuff that goes with moving around and sort of still being in that age where you're hustling and trying to get, you know, your life up and running. And, you know, I had to work. He was in daycare and after school care and things like that. And I thought, oh, okay, maybe he's not going to want to do it the same way, but he's just gone and, fell in love and then decided, I'm getting married and I'm having kids young. And, so I think I was shocked. I don't know. I
shocked to be called grandma?
Yeah. But then I just sort of went, I've got to completely get over myself. Like, this is the greatest thing, you know, like this is when I really think about the things that are, you know, going to make me happy in life. And is being surrounded by my kids and, you know, their kids, all of that in the future. And, you know, being around family is so important. So I was like, I need to get over myself. Being grandma is not the worst thing in the world, even though, you know, most of my friends are, you know, have little kids. So, I'm definitely in a different stage as far as that goes. But no, I love it. I do love it. She's brought a whole nother layer of love into our lives, hasn't she?
I think what you do is you worry, and, you know, anytime, and it was like a full circle, because the worry we had about him getting married young was
similar to how people
similar
felt
to
about
what
us.
People must have thought when we got together, right?
Yeah.
And it's just, you know, and it annoyed us so much when we were younger, but it's so ingrained in us as parents, I think, to be protective. All we were worried about is he rushing into it?
Mm-hmm.
Does he understand what, like, the gravity of getting married, what he's sort of doing? Because it was just before he turned 21.
Yeah.
So you worry about that stuff. But then, you know, and his wife, Matty, fiance at the time, you know, she is so wonderful and such a great girl, comes from a great family. And so we had no reason to be worried at all, but you're still worried anyway, you know. But, you know, after we got past the shock of,
I think of
him being so young, what really reflected for me is I felt really proud and proud of us that he saw what it was like to have young parents and, you know, have a young family or whatever. And that was something that was important to him. And if I really think about it, you know, and I don't want to pat ourselves on the back, but there must have been something about our family that, he obviously enjoyed that. He goes, that's what I want. He wanted a young family, and he wanted to get married young, and he put importance on that. So I'm really proud of that, and I'm proud of him for, doing that. He's a very selfless kid.
I think we just had to check ourselves pretty early when, they got engaged, and we sort of were like, oh, what's, why? I think we found ourselves having the same feelings that people probably had about our relationship. And we were like, why are we doing this? We're perpetuating something that was really hard for us, and we don't want to be those people. That's not who we are. We want to be loving and supportive, and no matter what happens, even if your kids are making a mistake, there's nothing you can actually do to stop that. You just have to be there when something goes wrong and help them, support them. So, we checked ourselves and, said we don't want to be, this type of parent or this type of mother-in-law. You know what I mean? So I was like, I'm going to just make sure that I'm being the person that I would have needed at that age.
So how old's your granddaughter now?
She'll be 2 in September. She'll be a big sister before she turns 2. So they're having another baby in August.
Congratulations. Oh, that's so exciting.
So another little girl. Just before her second birthday, she'll become a big sister. So,
and how are your kids enjoying being uncle and aunt when they're so young?
Oh, Eden is. I mean, she was born for it. I think she was born with a baby Bjorn in her arms. Like she loves babies. Yeah, she's very happy. And her and Olyria just have the cutest little relationship.
Yeah,
you can tell Olyria is obsessed with her. And then Xander thinks she's just cool and funny. He just thinks she's funny. So they've got a very sweet relationship. She calls Xander uncle, and then she calls Edie. So we were trying to get auntie off the ground, but she calls Edie and uncle, Xander uncle.
Yeah.
Oh, you got another one to train up, so there's hope yet.
She only just this week learnt grandpa.
Yeah,
because she hasn't been able to say it at all. But
I think I've been too thirsty to get her approval.
Yeah, he does he's just so in her grill, and she's just like, bro.
Yeah.
What's the difference between, I guess, like grandparenting now when you're still actively parenting as well? Like, how are you juggling the two, and what's the difference?
Obviously, I mean, like anyone says, you get to hand them back.
Mm-hmm.
So I remember like when Olyria sleeps over, and obviously we're way out of baby stage with the other two kids, waking up in the night to a baby is actually quite nice when they're going home the next day. You're like, oh, they're awake. That's okay. I'll change your nappy. That's cute. Because tomorrow night I'm going to sleep.
Yeah.
But when you've got a baby and you're like, I've woken up 3 times tonight and this is going to happen again tomorrow and probably for the next 3 years.
Yeah.
It's a bit of a different vibe.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's really interesting. I mean, I even remember telling people when we had Eden and Xander, at one point we had a kid who was learning to drive, a kid who was toilet training, and a newborn.
Wow.
Like all at once.
That was hell. That was a lot. that was a lot worse because you're feeling like no one's getting the attention that they need. There's only 2 of us, and someone's definitely pooing in their undies while someone wants you to take them on a drive in the car, and it was a lot.
That was me pooing in my undies, by the way.
I didn't want to say, but
Yeah.
It was obvious. She already knew.
Yeah.
But no, so that was harder. I think now, I mean, I only feel bad that we can't give Matty and Ethan more time for us to look after Olyria, because obviously my parents were great with Ethan, and they're now retired, and so they can have the kids and school holidays and stuff like that. We're not at that stage of our life yet. So Maddie's parents do a lot. They're a little tiny bit older than us, and they're sort of can do a little bit more stuff and babysitting We've just got the weekends, and we're happy to have her any weekend that they'll let us have her, because they're, always wanting to take her.
They're actually good parents. We're like, let her sleep over, and they're like, no, we'll come pick her up.
Yeah, they just want her with them all the time.
Yeah,
so
we're the opposite. We're like, here, the baby's sleeping over, bye.
Well, I guess they're giving you a lot of material for your podcast, Underage Grandparents. Tell me, what sort of stuff do you talk about on there, and how did it all come about?
We talk about pretty much anything and everything, the good, the bad, the ugly. A lot of it is, what it's like, having grandchildren. It's very much about how we're parenting, things are going on in our relationship at the time. And I just said to her, should we give this a go? Esther's was a bit apprehensive at the start. She isn't a big fan of the limelight.
I like to be in the background somewhere.
Whereas I'm a bit of a pick-me, I guess. And look, and I had to say this, like, Esther's very funny and tells a great story. And a lot of people ask us about it all the time. I get messages on social media and stuff. People want to, they're like, how does that work? What's the story? And a lot of people, when we say we've got a grandchild, they kind of look at us and they want to ask. They're like, I really want to ask, how did that happen?
Yeah.
So it's just a lot of that sort of stuff.
What do you most love about being young or underage grandparents? Like, what is it that brings you the most joy about it?
I think I enjoy how much energy I've got for it. I can chase her around all day, I just feel like I've got as much energy as I had in my 30s as a parent.
What I love the most about it is our story, I feel like, shows people that what you might think could be a terrible situation can turn into something quite beautiful. I imagine for Esther, being a single mum at 18, on those days would have been really, really tough for her. And I don't know that you would have sat there at 18 and gone, one day I'm going to be in my 40s and then I'm going to have all these beautiful children around me and be really blessed. So I would like to think that people, like, we can share our story with people, and something that they might think is not going to be great for them actually turns into something beautiful.
Yeah. I've had a couple of messages from women who've recently found out that they're going to be grandparents, and maybe it's not the circumstances they were hoping for. Like, you always hope your kids are going to take the easiest path in life. They're going to, choose the right career and make enough money and, choose the right partner and all that sort of stuff. And I've had a lot of messages from women who've been like, I'm going to be a grandparent, maybe, not under the circumstances that I was hoping for, but from your story, I talked about on the podcast that, I'd have enough love for Ethan. I knew that even as an 18-year-old that I was going to have enough love for him, even if it was just me. But because, everyone sort of makes you feel like maybe, your life might be over now. You're probably not going to go to uni. You're probably not going to do this. Everything's going to be harder for you now. And look, it wasn't easy, but you can still have a beautiful life, and you can still build something beautiful, and it can turn out even better than you could have ever imagined. And so, I think I like that part of doing the podcast. We're kind of sharing our story and, trying to make it light and funny about parenting and grandparenting. But it's also good to get that message out that, things that are hard or don't seem ideal can turn into something really beautiful as well.
That's beautifully said. I think we've all got this idea of a timeline and what a timeline should look like. But let's face it, none of us are ever completely on that one. We're either too late or too early, who says everything happened when it should have done, God.
And it changes too, like what you think you want in life changes every year or every 5 years, And I think that's what's cool about being a grandparent at our age is, it just proves life does not follow any sort of script or plan. You know, you just have to roll with what happens.
And it can be amazing if you roll with it. You know, I think if you resist it and you go, this isn't right, or this is not what I want, or, you know, how could this work? It just makes it harder for yourself. Whereas if you just embrace it and go, cool, this is just part of my story and our story. And
plus we get to be the young hotties at Grandparents' Day when Olyria starts school.
There you go. There you go. I knew there was a secret there somewhere. Wonderful. Well, thank you both so much for coming on the show today. I've really enjoyed having you, and looking forward to meeting your new grandchild.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks for having us.
Oh, that was so fun. Matty and Esther are such a breath of fresh air. They're a really great reminder that love doesn't have a set path or a timeline, and you need to grab it with both hands when it presents itself. Because who knew that a pash on a Tats dance floor would lead to this incredible multi-generational love story? I really adored hearing the role that Matt has taken in Ethan's life and how that's now progressed to a whole new generation. If you know someone who needs a reminder that love doesn't always follow a set rule book, please share this episode with them. Or you can send them across to our YouTube channel where they can watch it all in living colour. You've been listening to me, Tiffany Dunk, for the Australian Women's Weekly. We'll be back next week with another story of how love continues to inspire and surprise us in all of its different forms. I hope to see you then. This episode is supported by Vixen, Australian-made skincare powered by plant cell technology and designed to bring real simplicity back to skincare. This episode is made in partnership with Wounded Heroes Australia, the only 24-hour, 7-day-a-week crisis service that helps veterans and their families in their hardest moments. Love has never been one size fits all. And these are the stories we love to tell at the Australian Women's Weekly. For over 90 years, we've been bringing you stories of hope, of heart and connection that reflect the world we live in. And now it's time for a new chapter with the Australian Women's Weekly Love Stories podcast.
This is an R Media podcast.